Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Above the Rim Rundown, where we run down all things NBA. I am one of your hosts, Memo, and today we've got Hoops right beside me. How are you doing?
What's going on, man? Overall, I'm doing okay, I'd say. Nothing new in particular. Pretty much same lifestyle. Go to work. Um, I'm back. Usually go to the gym, have dinner, take a shower, chill for a little bit, and then go to bed. Repeat cycle. And then weekends usually just try to catch up on rest. Occasionally, maybe do something fun, but usually nothing too special in particular. What about you? How's everything been going for you?
Yeah, for me, same old, like work. I've been having to do a lot of homework for a few of my classes, so it's whatever. I've been extra tired this week, but you know, at least we got playoff basketball to help us out throughout the week, which is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the first week of basketball. This recording is being done after the Friday night games. So, uh, even though this will be uploaded on Monday, don't be expecting us talking about the Saturday or Sunday games, the games on the 27th or the 28th, because we don't know what happened. We don't know if the Lakers got a win for once or something crazy like that, which we will definitely be talking about our disappointment with the
Yeah,
Lakers and some other good and bad things that have happened throughout the playoffs. But yeah, let's not waste any more time. I guess before we get started, I should say that after we run down all these playoff matches, we will be talking and going over our preseason standing predictions that we made, obviously before the season, which I took a quick glimpse at my early predictions, and they're wild. They're so bad, or some of them is some of those picks is awful. I can't believe how bad of a prediction I made, but I guess stay tuned if you want to check that out. And of course, if you like what you're listening to, check us out on all uh, podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube. Check out our social medias, stuff like that. But yeah, let's get started and talk about the West Coast, the best coast, and we'll go in order, starting with the first seed against the eighth seed, OKC versus the Pelicans. There have been a total of two games, and so far it's looking like a typical first versus eighth seed matchup where uh, OKC has the lead 2-0 at the moment. How are you feeling about this matchup at the moment?
I think that game one was pretty good. Um, I'm matter of fact, I feel like game one between these two teams was probably the best game one of the playoffs because it was really close. A lot of back and forth. Um, I was looking at the stats and saw that there were 13 ties and 20 lead changes. That's that's pretty good. Shows a sign of how close and competitive it was. Hell's biggest lead was 7, and Thunder's biggest lead was 10, which is not really crazy for either side. Um, a lot of good players stepping up was the Pels. They had four players in double digits. Trey Murphy was 21, CJ was 20, Jonas was 13, and BI was 12. And then for OKC, they also had some guys step up big. SGA putting up 28, J Dub put up 19, and Chet put up 15. Um, that game at the end looked like it was anyone's game. Some people think that maybe there was a little bit of like a bad call at the end that cost the L's, but I don't remember too much what exactly happened. I did catch the ending. I just remember like it was close, and then Shea made the go-ahead shot, and then CJ missed the potential game winner. But that was a pretty good game.
Yeah, it was
Game
definitely
two though,
very competitive. Uh, the Pelicans gave them a big challenge, but yeah, as you probably were gonna say, game two was definitely
game
not the
two
same.
was nowhere near because it was just a blowout. Pels went up early to go up five briefly momentarily. But from there was no looking back. OKC just took control and dominated the rest of the way. Ended up going up by as much as 34 points. All five of their starters put up double digits that game. Pretty good. That was a bad loss for the Pelicans after almost winning game one and having people think maybe this would be a closer 1 versus 8 matchup than many anticipate. OKC immediately proved that they are clearly the better team and they should be able to close the series relatively quick.
Yeah, I don't know how quick. I forgot what was my prediction. I think I said in five, maybe in
I
six.
think I might have said I kind of forgot. I said
I
five
forgot
or
too.
six. Definitely one of those two.
But yeah, OKC really bounced back. Even though they obviously won the first game, it was close. A lot of clutch shots towards the end, and then CJ ended up missing. But game two is where OKC looked like regular season OKC, where they were just beating everybody uh, based off of aura alone. It looks like, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't have much to say. I mean, the defense was great from OKC's side, especially Dort. Dort had some great games, especially defending Brandon Ingram, who's been all right, not the best, not super reliable. So, um, yeah. So you believe it'll be wrapped up quick? Do you think it'll even be like a sweep, or are you sticking with like the 5-6 range?
I feel like Pels should be capable to take one at home. Thunder is capable of sweeping them, but I'm just gonna say OKC in five.
A reminder though, the Pelicans are not the best home team though. So I wouldn't be
They aren't.
surprised if they got swept, but they have to win one at home. Like they really have to.
I feel like they should win one at home for sure. Like, ironically, they have been a better road team than home team this year. But playing against OKC, we all know how big of a home court advantage OKC is with their loud fans.
Yeah, they have a great
Probably,
crowd.
arguably, yeah, definitely. And what's cool, especially about them, not only due to the fact that they are really loud, also cool that all the fans wear those white t-shirts so that it's uniform. Like Lakers, they give the fans the yellow t-shirts or gold t-shirts and hardly any of them wear it. Like, bruh, I get it. Like, it's cool to show your jerseys and whatnot, but for a playoff game, it would be cooler if everyone wore the same color in the crowd like that,
Yeah, I guess
matching.
it's just filled with
Um,
rich LA snobby people, especially towards
yeah,
like the closer you get to the courts. They just feel
yeah,
entitled, I guess. Maybe that's why. I don't know. I'm
yeah,
just guessing.
yeah. Also, like, man, Lakers home court crowd is quite weak, and I think the same is like for Boston, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that like tickets are too expensive, so probably a lot of people can't afford it. So maybe they should do something about that. But it's definitely a bad look. Like the fan bases that are supposedly the largest have the weaker crowds. That shouldn't be a thing. But I do. But going back on topic here, I think probably Pels win one home game. But I feel like 5 games max. I would assume.
Yeah, I think I'm the same with you. I'll, I believe they can win one. They're a very scrappy team. They know how to win. without Zion, but they definitely miss him for sure. Uh, Zion, like, he helps out a lot, not only with scoring, but he could be a good ball distributor, which is something they definitely need. I don't really trust CJ McCollum when it comes to playmaking. And not saying Zion is like Magic Johnson or anything, but he would definitely help out there.
Definitely.
But is that it for
So
OKC Pelicans? Anything else you
I
want to say,
believe
or should we move on?
I believe we just about wrapped up what is needed to be said for the Pels and Thunder series. And so I believe we can move on to our next series, which is the not going very well series between the Lakers and the Nuggets.
I don't even want to talk
Where do
about
I
this
even
one. Like, I know.
a moment of silence first. So to the viewers, earlier I was like semi joking but partially serious, talking to Memo that this was considered a pre-funeral for the Lakers season, man. And yeah, it's rough. Um, to start though, I guess stating the obvious, Lakers had a double-digit lead in every single one of these games, and then blow it. And man, I guess we'll start with game one. So game one, Lakers start off the strong in the first half, going up by as much as 12 in the middle of the second quarter, and really were looking shocking. I mean, like, I think that before the series started, both of us figured that Denver was a better team. I mean, we may be biased fans, but we're also realistic fans, so we knew what was to be expected. Um, but when we saw like Lakers go out to 12 in the first half, I mean, obviously it was early, but I had hope maybe we could have at least made it a little bit of a closer series potentially. Not looking like the case. After that strong first half, second half, the Lakers just completely lay an egg. To start, they were only up three at halftime when Denver wasn't even shooting crazy. Um, I knew we were in trouble when that was the case. I mean, because if they were not knocking their shots down early, you assume that can't be for an entire game. Unfortunately, that was true. Horrible third quarter by the Lakers. Denver outscores them 32-18. Nuggets ended up going up by as much as 15 and ultimately win by 11. So game one, not a good game. So now on to game two. Pretty similar to start. I mean, the Lakers had a pretty dominant start to the game. And I said that they pretty much had a damn near perfect game for most of the way. I mean, they went up by as much as 20. D'Angelo Russell had a major comeback after a very bad shooting performance in game one. He only went 1 for 9 from three in game one. In game two, he went 7 for 11. And he scored 23 points. Not bad. But the thing that really came back to bite the Lakers in the ass this game, I believe, was in the third quarter. They had like a 5 minute scoring drought. That can't happen, especially against the defending champions. Like, that got them close back within the game. And then in the fourth quarter, we already know what happened. I mean, so at the very end, the Nuggets got the game pretty close, and the two teams are trading baskets back and forth a lot. Ultimately, I think the crucial turning point was when, at the very end, trading baskets. Well, to start, Jamal Murray got fouled on a very controversial play, and with two challenges remaining, Darvin Ham decides not to call the challenge. And definitely got a lot of well-deserved criticism for that. Because, like, we wouldn't have won the challenge. But you have two challenges remaining, and it's a late game situation. Why don't you call it? Like, bro, like the literally the game and the season's on the line there potentially. I mean, like obviously at that time it was only 1-0, but we know like one win in a series is a major difference. But yeah, definitely a bad move by Darvin Ham not calling that challenge to at least have the refs review it. So then Jamal Murray goes on to knock down two free throws. And then afterwards, Lakers try to regain the lead when LeBron hits the three-pointer really badly. Then we know what happened. That's when the Nuggets grab the rebound, dribble down court, and then Jamal Murray gets that fadeaway mid-range shot over AD. Absolute heartbreaking loss, man.
Bro, I wanted to cry.
Bro, I was, I was so speechless, bro. Like, we led, like, if you look on, like, NBA.com box score, they have, like, that score chart about, like, who's leading for how long. It was all in purple for pretty much the entire game until the last second. Denver, like, the gold or whatever color for them is, it showed them had the lead. Like, bro, it was horrible.
It's crazy. And like
Yeah,
especially with how close it was towards the end, like the Nuggets would score, then the Lakers, then the Nuggets, then the Lakers. They were going back and forth, back and forth. Um but yeah, that LeBron miss though, that was egregious. Wide open after
yeah,
he kind of pushed like KCP to the
yeah.
ground. I that could be argued as a foul, I guess. And
Could
wide
have
open,
been, yeah.
nobody near at all. Breaks it, and then that gives Jamal Murray an opportunity to hit the game winner. Which before the LeBron miss, he made a tough mid range shot. I think on AD as well, to get them
I think so.
to help them tie the game, I believe. But yeah, and Jamal Murray, he had such a bad game in like the first half as well.
Yeah.
And then but when like the Nuggets needed him the most, he just comes through for this team. And unfortunately, we can't really say that about any of the Lakers. Like, no matter how great LeBron is, Anthony Davis is, um, they're not really clutch performers. At least not at this stage of their career. They don't
Yeah.
really step it up when they need to. We had some great contributions that game from like D'Lo. He was hitting some great shots. This was his only great game against the Nuggets, as you mentioned. 1 for 9 from three in the last game. He really bounced back and was scorching from three, and like that's what we need from him. Uh, we need AD and LeBron leading the team, making most of the baskets. We need D'Lo draining threes. Everything was looking right until the very end, where Jamal Murray
Yeah.
hit that tough fadeaway mid range shot, and yeah, that will haunt me for a while for sure.
Yeah. Game two definitely was the most frustrating game of the series because pretty much everything that needed to go in the Lakers' favor happened except for the win. Like, think about it. D'Angelo was shooting crazy hot at one game, which he usually doesn't against Denver. And then, like, the Nuggets weren't really shooting that crazy. Jamal Murray had a relatively, like, average game, shall we say. Jokic was good, but he was not, like, crazy that game. Like, yeah, that was really disappointing. And then game three, man, pretty much no different. Good first half by the Lakers, went up by as much as 12. Second half was a completely different story. Nuggets came out firing, and the Lakers did not show up. Denver ended up going up by as much as 15. At the end, the Lakers tried to make a run to attempt a comeback, but Nuggets were able to hold off. Horrible game by D'Angelo Russell. After he went 7 for 11 from three in game two, He goes 0 for 7 and puts up a complete donut this game. Like, bruh, that can't happen.
He just pulled
And
a Klay
then,
Thompson right in front of our eyes.
yeah, really bad. And then potentially, probably like the most frustrating head scratcher is that D'Angelo Russell had the nerves at halftime to hop onto Discord on his personal server and talk to a bunch of randos saying that he would make 5 threes in the second half and the Lakers would win that game. And what does he do? Scores nothing. Bro, first off, why are you going on Discord at halftime to a
That's
bunch
so
of random
crazy.
people we don't know? Yeah, it's weird. And two, like, bro, back up your talk if you're gonna say something, or else don't say it. Yeah, that was a bad look. Um, he ends up scoring nothing. The Lakers' three best players, AD, Braun, and Austin, they did pretty good. No one else really showed up though. The Lakers.
Yeah, I wanted
So
to
obviously,
say that. Sorry for cutting you off, but
oh, no worries.
D'Angelo Russell was definitely not the only issue. It's like the whole Lakers besides AD and
Yeah,
LeBron because throughout the series, even though like Austin Reeves had a decent game here and D'Lo had a decent game on the second game, the bench, the other starters have
bench
not been
scoring is
reliable.
atrocious.
Yeah, Rui
Yeah,
has been like a no show. Hasn't really done
yeah,
anything. We talked about how inconsistent D'Lo was. Austin Reeves wasn't as aggressive as he should have been in the first two games, and some would say that he was stat padding last game because most of his points came in when the Nuggets were already like on their way to winning the game. And so scoring wise, the only people that were consistent were the two stars, LeBron and AD, and even them, they have their faults as well. Not
yeah.
coming through in the fourth. LeBron, horrible defense. He was in charge of Eric Gordon that game, and Eric Gordon went off. And there's no
Yeah,
excuse. I mean, I guess you can make an excuse like he's old, like he's not gonna be defending like 2013 LeBron, but still,
yeah,
that's your guy. The only
right.
thing Aaron Gordon does offensively is be ready for a lob. That's all he does, and LeBron can't guard that. He will do some help defense or get distracted, focus on someone else, and then Eric Gordon cuts and gets easy baskets at the rim, and it's like I'm like so over this team now. Like usually
Yeah,
I love my Lakers. It's hard for me to like want to trade players even if they're awful, or it's hard for me to want to see them go. But at this moment, I don't know. I feel like almost everybody on the roster should go. Like we need to like do something major this offseason, which is like a whole different story that we don't have to get into now. But like
yeah,
something needs to change. We gotta get rid of Darvin Ham, who's probably been our worst coach in years. And
yeah.
like
And
there's a
like,
lot of issues.
yeah. And I'm gonna say like the coaching carousel that the Lakers have like gone through over the years overall has been quite bad ever since Phil retired. Probably the best one we had, honestly, was Frank Vogel, if you think about it, because he's the one that actually led us to a championship, and even he was mediocre. But um, yeah, and yeah, this was a really frustrating season. Granted, like it's not officially over yet, but it's more than likely because no team has come back from down 3-0. Um, but like during the off season when this roster was assembled, it seemed really good on paper. And this team has shown flashes of how good they can be when they play at their highest potential. The problem is that they were really inconsistent. Darvin Ham always doing a lot of dumb lineups throughout the season. And he probably cost the Lakers like probably about 10 games in the regular season is his dumb decision making. Because this team shouldn't be a 7 seed. They should easily be like at least a top five, maybe even a top three. We shouldn't have to play against Denver in the first round. We could have played against some easier team. And then maybe play against Denver in the second round or the conference finals, and maybe they still would have swept us. But at least it wouldn't have been in round one. Come on, bro. Um, but yeah, definitely really disappointing. Last year, Lakers completely overachieved in a season that we didn't really expect much in the beginning, especially when they still had Russ, Patrick Beverly, and whatnot. But this season, we expected better things from this team coming off a Western Conference Finals appearance, and it is like completely underachieving. It's almost like as if this season we got more of what we would have expected last season. And then last season, we got more of what we would have expected this season. Doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, definitely some major moves need to be coming for this team. We'll probably talk about that in another video a different day, like down the road. Um, yeah, season is on life support now, down 3-0. Game 4 is technically tonight, now that it's 12 a.m. on Saturday. Damn, I'm not looking forward to it. Honestly, I don't know if I want to watch the game. I mean, I think I'm going to watch it just because it's my team and it's the playoffs and might be the last game of the season. But like, I don't have a good feeling about it. Like, I can already predict what's going to happen is the Lakers are going to have a lead early again, and then the Nuggets are going to come back and they're going to build a lead, and then the Lakers are going to have a fake comeback and then they're going to get sent home. That's probably what's going to happen. It's just too predictable at this point. I hate to admit it, but yeah, we kind of see what's coming. Like, if they can win tomorrow just to avoid the sweep, like, that's not asking for a lot. Can you guys please do that for us? Like, we're not even asking for you to come back to win the series. We know that's not going to happen. We just don't want to get swept again. Unfortunately, even that seems to be asking for a lot, though.
Yeah, I feel
That
like
team
many
just
of the Lakers, including like LeBron, they're like over it right now. If you look at their
yeah,
body language on the court, LeBron saying it's just basketball, like he's
yeah,
over
I
it.
saw that. Like, bro, you know, he did you know that he used that same quote back in like 2016? I think he said that when the Cavs were down 3-1 in the finals that year, maybe. And he got some criticism back then. That was when he came back to win the series. Now, this is going to be a complete long shot. I don't think it's going to happen this time, but imagine. Yeah. I think that those fans need to be realistic, though. Like, it's just not going to happen, unfortunately. We match up horribly against that team. They've been owning us lately. How are we going to win 4 in a row against a team that beat us 11 in a row times? It just doesn't make sense. Granted, every game was close, but like, still, come on now, be realistic. But anyhow, that was a really disappointing series overview we went over. I think it's time for us to move on to the next series.
Yes, a very
Um,
similar series, as in that it is now a 3-0 series,
Total
but
dominance. Yeah,
this time it's a good 3-0 series, at least for us.
I agree. Yeah,
Timberwolves versus
definitely.
Suns. Uh, I'll go. You could go first, honestly, because I know you're probably very happy with the results right now. Uh,
I
so
am definitely really happy about the results so far. Um, for one, obviously, I don't like the Suns at all. It's mostly because of like Devin Booker, Grayson Allen, the dirty player there. Their fans are. I mean, I don't really know a lot of Suns fans per se, but the ones that like you see on Twitter definitely quite toxic. And I do like the Timberwolves team also, so on top of that, I'm definitely happy for them. if they can make a run, that would be cool to see also. But going game by game, game one, it was a relatively close game early in the first quarter. Teams are trading baskets. Suns led by 5, which was their biggest of the game. But early in the second quarter, or so early in the second, the teams were trading baskets, and there were several lead changes being involved. But that's when things completely shifted. The Timberwolves ended up going on a pretty big run to end the second quarter, and they led by 10 at the half. And there was just no looking back from there. The Timberwolves ended up blowing the game open in the second half, and they got an easy 25-point win over the Suns. So, a good dominant game one performance by the Timberwolves to win that game. Game two, it was looking like it was going to be the same early, with the Timberwolves going up 8-0, dominating the first quarter. But then the Suns ended up pretty much dominating the second quarter, as they went up by as much as 8 at one point. But at halftime, they were up by just 1. And that was where pretty much the Suns struck disaster. In the third quarter, there was a major turning point when Grayson Allen got injured. I believe he twisted his ankle while landing and stepped on Mike Conley's foot, and the Suns are pretty much done at that point. The Wolves gained control, and they ended up going by as much as 19, and ultimately they won that game by 12 for a 2-0 series lead. So now game 3, which was last night actually, just because 12 a.m. in the morning on Saturday. First half was pretty competitive. Second half not as much. The Wolves ended up blowing the game open again in the second half, which is seemingly the Suns' kryptonite this series. Monstrous game by Ant, putting up 36 points. Timberwolves had a great scoring balance this game. 6 players in double digits. So their big 3 was phenomenal. Ant was 36 points, Gobert was 19, Cat was 18. And then some of their other starters and role players stepped up big too. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had an explosive third quarter, making 4 threes. And he scored 16 points total. Mike Conley put up 15, and Naz Reid put up 13. And then in the loss for the Suns, the big 3 for the Suns were pretty good. Bradley Beal put up 28, KD 25, Book 23, Aaron Gordon put up 11. Eric Gordon, not Aaron Gordon, 11 points. But clearly that wasn't enough. Suns end up going down 3-0, just like the Lakers as mentioned, and their season is also on life support at the moment. Must say, if obviously like right now the Lakers state is really damn disappointing and depressing to see as fans, but if the Suns also get swept, at least we aren't alone. But yeah, I said quite a handful just now. Memo, you want to give some of your thoughts on this series or any specific game?
Yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with this outcome. Like, I'm a Devin Booker hater through and through, and he's been very annoying. Not very annoying, but at least in game 3, he was annoying. He had an altercation with McDaniels where McDaniels had the ball. Booker slapped it out of his hand because he was very frustrated. They were losing around like 20 points at that point.
20.
Yeah. Just showing how big of a loser he is, really. Like, if you are frustrated, maybe do something about it next time. Maybe score efficiently, which he didn't do in game 1. Game 1, he had 18 points, but hold up. Uh, yeah, he shot 5 for 16. Not the best. And yeah, I mean, he bounced back in game two, but game two, that was the McDaniels game. He had 25 points. Uh, I believe. Interestingly enough, Ant and Towns had kind of mid games that night, but it was the rest of the team that carried. Uh, offensively, I'm speaking. So Gobert had like 18 points. Conley had 18 points. McDaniels had 25 that game. So everybody else did their thing. So even though Ant only had 15 points that game, and I believe Towns only had 12 points, it didn't matter because the rest of the team were able to score, which isn't like a common thread. Like it's usually Ant and Towns who are in charge of the offense, but it was like the other way around in game two. And then, as you said, game three, great game from like all of a lot of the players contributed offensively for the Timberwolves. Um, Ant had 36, and he now ties Kevin Garnett for 7 30-point games in the playoffs. So he's easily going to surpass that and have the record. Um, yeah, I'm very happy at the moment because, yeah, even though I've never been a big Timberwolves fan, they are growing on me. Like Ant is a really cool player. Do you see him taunting after he like did that like full court pass to Gobert? Gobert got an N1, and he did like the DX taunt. This one.
I think I actually missed that play. Was that tonight or
Yeah,
last night,
tonight.
shall we say?
Yeah,
Uh, I think I missed that. Was that in the second half or the first half?
second
Second,
half.
right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you like turned it off because it was like a blowout at that point.
Oh, was it in the like late in the fourth quarter?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, I think I did turn it off around that time because it was a blowout. Um, just because I had to do some other stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look the replay because that sounds really cool. Not gonna lie. And I definitely agree with you. Like Ant is one of the more exciting players in the league. I mean, if I recall, didn't we vote him for most exciting in our awards show video
Yeah, I
a
think
few weeks ago?
he won most fun player of the year.
Yeah. So definitely says a lot. I mean, a lot of explosive plays, from the dunks. He can play some defense also. He could shoot threes. Pretty cool player. But yeah, we're both definitely happy about the result of the series so far. It's mostly because the Suns being destroyed,
And not only
shall we say.
do they look screwed this season and look like they might be swept, but looking forward to their future, they're screwed. They
Doesn't
they
look
really
very
can't
good.
do anything. They don't have draft picks for like a long time. They have
Yeah.
Bradley Beal who has like the worst contract. He has a no trade clause. They barely got vets to sign up to join the team this year. There's no way more vets are, even better vets are gonna take minimum money to join KD and Booker, because as we saw this year, it was a disaster. Like casuals thought they were gonna be great because of their big three, but people that actually watch basketball knew that this was gonna be a problem. Their defense was an issue. Their offense right now is kind of an issue. I don't think KD is as aggressive as he should be. Booker honestly is surprising me with how inefficient he could be on the court. Like he's shown from time to time that in the playoffs he is just an automatic bucket, and he's not really showing that in this series. So, I love to see it. I'm glad that they're at the brink of heading to Cancun with the Lakers. So,
Definitely.
um, I'm happy about that. Anything else you
Yeah.
wanted to say about the series, or should we move on to one of the more competitive and exciting series, the Mavericks versus Clippers.
I was just gonna make a side joke that if the Lakers and Suns both end up getting swept, they should schedule a Cancun series. See who's the worst team between the two.
That'd be
I mean,
funny.
I think maybe it could be yeah, it would be. But yeah, I believe that would be enough for that series. So we can now move on to probably the best Western Conference series so far, arguably. And that would be the Clippers and the Mavericks in the 4 versus 5. So starting off with game one, Kawhi Leonard sat out that game, still recovering from his injury management. And surprisingly, it didn't look like they needed him. A dominant win from the Clippers. They shot over 50%, or maybe exactly 50% from three. It was a flat out horrible game for the Mavs. They never led in the game, went down by as much as 29. They tried to make a comeback, pulling to the game to within 10, but ultimately they fell short. So that was a really rough game in game one for the Mavericks. And Clippers looked good without Kawhi. It was quite impressive. Um, Game two now, that was when Kawhi returned. That was a low scoring game from start to finish. There were 9 ties, 10 lead changes. Mavs' biggest lead was 9, Clippers' biggest lead was 6. So neither team was able to pull away. After shooting 50% from 3 in game 1, Clippers only shoot 27% from 3 in game 2 on a whopping 8 out of 30 three-point shooting. Um Mavs definitely had some key guys step up this game. Luka put up 32, Kyrie was 23, PJ Washington was 18, Derrick Jones Jr. was 10. So definitely some much good needed scoring spread amongst some of their key starters. For the Clippers, Paul George led the way with 22 points, and Harden also had 22. Kawhi put up 15, and Zubats put up 13. Um, None of this sounds bad at all on if you just hear the box score, except for the fact that when I was looking at the box score, all of those guys listed for the Clippers, Paul George, Harden, and Kawhi, had negative plus minuses except for Zubats. And so this was a much needed win for the Mavs to tie the series 1-1 after the 2 games in LA. And so last night's game was the series shifted to Dallas. Clippers started the game off strong, going up by as much as 7 early in the second. But from there on out, it was all Mavs, as they ended up going up by as much as 21 in the fourth quarter and ultimately winning by 11. Clippers star players were not very good. They were pretty much a no-show this game. Poor performances by Kawhi, Paul George, and Russ, all scoring under double digits. And Kawhi scored 9 points only, though actually his percentage wasn't bad. He was 4 out of 7, but the thing is, he was injured. Like, clearly, he did not look like himself. So honestly, maybe he should just sit the series. Honestly, Clippers are probably gonna lose anyway, so why even risk him further? But Paul George was 7 points and only 3 for 11 shooting, not good at all. Russ, man, 0 for 7 shooting and only scored 1 point on a free throw. There's something about the name Russell these last few days, man. D'Angelo Russell and Russell Westbrook going scoreless. Yeah, it's rough. Um, Shockingly, James Harden was actually the one that put up numbers for the Clippers. The guy who historically chokes in the playoffs is the one who carried them. Yeah, very ironic. The
Yeah, I
guy
don't
that was
want
in the
to
losing.
admit it, but has he been the most consistent star for the Clippers?
I think he has so far. I mean, granted, it's only been 3 games. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a small sample size, but it looks like he has been the most consistent one. And I hate to admit it, but hey, shout out to him. Too bad his team is still losing. But to go into specifics, James Harden put up 21 points on 54% shooting, and he was 5 for 8 on threes. So that was quite impressive, I must say, whether I like it or not. But yeah, Norman Powell, he also put up 21. Zubats put up 19. Oh, Zubats has also been really consistent this series, so huge for them there. Luka did not shoot. Now for the Mavericks, Luka did not shoot the ball very well. Shooting only 28% on 7 for 25 shooting. But clearly it didn't matter because the rest of the Mavs were able to step up big. Kyrie put up 21. Eric Lively put up 13 points with, I think he had like several really cool lob dunks. That was really cool to see. Um, Derek Jones Jr. was 11 and PJ Washington was 10. Mavericks had some pretty good point spread amongst their players tonight, and that was key for them to take this win and go up 2-1 in the series. Pivotal game 4 on Sunday to see whether the Clippers can tie it up 2-2 or if the Mavs can go 3-1 and have a chance to close it out the following game in LA. So far this series has been, it seems like definitely a lot more blowouts, I guess. Like game 1 was a Clippers blowout. Game 2 was close, but then game 3 was a Mavs blowout. Anyhow, we'll see what happens. Game 4, I believe that it's definitely going to be a much closer game, and we'll see. But yeah, Memo, any initial thoughts on this series?
Well, I'm definitely happy that the Mavs are winning this series at the moment. As a Lakers fan, don't want the Clippers to succeed at all, but they did in Game One.
Agreed.
Surprisingly, without Kawhi, that was strange how they were able to take that one, um, but they did. And a lot of people were, based off of one game, they were speculating like, Luka doesn't have it. Luka can't lead this team to beat the Clippers. And looking at his body language that game, he was very angry. He looked out of it. But game 2, he told people to relax and just did his thing. Luka led the team to a victory. He had a hot hand towards the end of the game and ended up clinching the game, hitting a step back 3 on James Harden's face. Like he used James Harden's move against him to basically clinch the win. And that was with Kawhi in the game, but he's obviously not 100%. In order to keep their season alive, Kawhi should be on the court, but I kind of feel bad for him. Like, he's obviously not 100%, and in game 3, he couldn't really do much because he was injured. Somehow did better than Paul George, who has no excuse. He had a
No excuse.
classic playoff P performance where he chokes. He has another stinker in the postseason. This is why people make fun of you, Paul George. Just because you have a decent podcast doesn't mean we forget how horrendous you have been in the playoffs ever since you left the Pacers. And he was even the biggest disaster of Game 3. Westbrook was by far the biggest disaster of Game 3. You already went over his stats. The stats were awful, but his antics on the court made me lose some respect for him. And this is coming from a huge Russell Westbrook fan. I've been rooting for this guy for a long time. Even though he ruined the Lakers, I've still been a fan of Russell Westbrook, but seeing how he was overly angry, just causing horrible hard fouls, ended up doing a hard foul on Luka, grabbing his arms for no reason, and then uh, trying to fight PJ Washington after PJ Washington was trying to separate them a little bit. Uh, and seeing his reaction over all of that, like he looked like a little kid having a tantrum. Uh, and PJ Washington looked like the dad about to punish the kid. You know, he looked upset, but he was standing on business while Russell Westbrook looked like he got bitched out there. Like, there's no other way to put it. He, Westbrook is PJ Washington's bitch. Like, that's the only way I could put it, because he was overly angry, overly upset, overly dramatic over every single thing when he was on the court. And he was on the court for like 3 minutes, which is crazy. Or something crazy like that. It was probably not 3 minutes, but he wasn't on the court for that long. And ended up getting 2 ejections, one for the hard foul on Luka, one for trying to start a fight with PJ Washington, and ended up looking extremely stupid. So, I hate to see him fall from grace like that, even though he hasn't been good for a long time. He's someone I root for, but it sucks when that side of him comes out. Like, it's such an ugly look. But good thing they ended up losing this game, and now the Mavs are going back home again, and hopefully they will take that 3-1 lead. Because
I hope so.
I don't want the Clippers to win, and although I feel bad for Kawhi, fuck the Clippers. Like, let's be real. Let's go.
Clippers.
Let's go Mavs.
And also, if the Mavs go up 3-1, for any doubts, the Clippers are not going to come back, okay? Clippers blow 3-1 leads. They do not come back from 3-1 leads. And no, I don't care if Doc Rivers is gone. They're still a cursed franchise, okay? Yeah. But anyhow, we'll see what happens. Definitely hope the Mavs can send that team home. I mean, it would have been cool if they could have gotten swept too, but and just beat them 4-1. That would be cool too. Or beat them, period. But I believe that would be a good time for us now to move to the Eastern Conference, which is the not as good conference, but definitely still some good matchups. Starting with the 1 versus 8 between the Celtics and the Heat. Obviously, rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Finals. But this time things are a little bit different because no Jimmy Butler. And game 1, that really showed to be a major factor. Celtics just dominated from start to finish. Started the game up 14-0 from the gates. Heat finished the quarter strong and were able to pull to within 3. Unfortunately, that was the closest that it got. Celtics just kept on building their lead up from there. They went up by as much as 34 points late in the game, and ultimately the Heat tried to make a little comeback, but the closest they were able to get it, they still ended up losing by 20 at the end. So game 1 was a really dominant Celtics win, as many people expected. Game 2, however, much better performance from the Heat thanks to their very good three-point shooting. The Heat had a franchise playoff record of 23 three-pointers made in the game on 54% shooting, 23 out of 43, in case you guys are wondering. Tyler Hero leading the way there with 6 threes, 6 for 11. Caleb Martin, 5 for 6 from 3. Fans are booing him like crazy because I guess he got in the altercation with Tatum in game 1, and he made them pay for sure. So definitely great to see that, especially since they don't like the Celtics. Anyhow, definitely some key players for the Heat showing up big when they needed them to. Shout out to them. For the Celtics in the loss, their stars were able to still put up numbers. Jaylen Brown was 33 points, Tatum was 28, and Derek White was 13 points. But Kristaps Porzingis, horrible game for him. Only scored 6 points on a whopping 1 for 9 shooting and 0 for 4 from three. So Celtics, that was a pretty disappointing loss for them in game two, and a pretty much well needed win for the Heat. Thanks in large part to their very good 3-point shooting. Um, Hopefully, the Heat can have 3 more games where they can shoot crazy good from three, and who knows, maybe they can win this, a hold a massive upset. It's a long shot, but we can hope. But anyhow, Memo, what are your thoughts on the series so far?
I am honestly a little surprised because I've been saying the Heat are not they're not as big and tough as people portray them to be. I felt like last year, even though they had a lot of success against a lot of teams, I felt like that was a fluke. But they're kind of proving me wrong because yeah, they did lose to the Celtics on game one. The Celtics were dominant. They looked like the first seed. Tyler Hero had a stinker. Celtics had made 10 more threes than the Heat. The Heat responded back by hitting 53.5% of their threes. They're draining threes like crazy. I got the box score up right now, and Nikola Jovic made 3 threes. Caleb Martin made 5. Hero made 6. Hawkins made 3. Off the bench, Robinson hit 2. Heisman hit 3. Wright hit 1. Like everybody was making threes at a very efficient rate, and not only were they scoring, but as you mentioned, Tingus Pingus, bad game. Uh, Drew Holiday, not the best game either. They both didn't do well offensively. Pretty inefficient for both of them. And, it makes you wonder, can the Heat actually pull it off? I don't know. I'm still curious because they needed to score 53.5% of their threes to win. That's going to be hard to replicate.
And it was still a pretty close game. It's not like they blew them out on really amazing shooting. So, like, they are definitely going to need to repeat that performance if they would like to win the series. Don't know if they'll be able to do it, but we hope so.
Or have Jimmy Butler come back sooner than expected, but I don't really know his timetable. I just know that he loves talking trash. I don't know if you saw that. I think it was a story where he photoshopped his face on Jaylen Brown and said, "Don't let us have one."
I saw. That was hilarious. It was the his face photoshopped on Jaylen Brown's face for the quote he said last year, "Don't let us get one." Yeah, that was too great. Yeah, if the Heat can do something special again, but this time without Jimmy, that would be a really cool story, especially knowing that it'd be against Boston again. Definitely would hope and love to see that happen. Maybe a long shot, but we'll see. Next 2 games in Miami. If I were to make a prediction, I would say maybe they split those 2 games just because I feel like Heat probably should win one of their home games. And Celtics will probably find a way to win one of the road games. And from there we'll see what happens. But my prediction is the Heat is definitely gonna make the series tough on the Celtics. Tougher than they would like for sure. Then I would say this is not your typical ace seed in the sense Eric Spoelstra forming the really good Heat culture as they always mention. Um, if they were playing against like a if the Celtics are playing against like a regular A seed that doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs, they probably easily sweep. Like for example, if they played against the Hawks or the Bulls, then it would be easy win. So definitely glad they're not playing those teams. But anyhow, I think we pretty much summed up that series so far. Would you say it's good to go on to our next series?
Yeah, for sure. We could talk about Knicks
Yeah.
versus 76ers.
Which is probably the best Eastern Conference series so far,
A little
arguably. But
debatable, yeah, but it's definitely up there.
yeah. And so I guess I can start it off. Game one was quite good. First half was dominated by the Sixers, going up by as much as 13 late in the or early in the late first quarter. But then the Knicks completely outscored the Sixers 33-12 in the second quarter and turned a big deficit into a 12-point lead of their own. And then in the third quarter, Philly goes on a run and outscored the Knicks 36-21 to regain the lead and go up by 3. Ultimately, in the fourth quarter, it was the Knicks show again. They finished with a strong fourth, and they were able to win the game 111-104. So the main storyline of this game was a lot of back and forth runs, and each team pretty much swapping quarters that they owned. Like as mentioned, Sixers own first quarter, Knicks own second quarter, Sixers own third quarter, and then Knicks own fourth quarter and win the game. So that was a pretty good, very shifty lead and back and forth game. Game two, somewhat similar, I guess. Sixers dominate the first half, and they went up by as much as 10. But ultimately, they were only up by 4 at halftime. And in the third quarter, the Knicks dominated, and they were able to go up by 5. And then in the fourth quarter, the Knicks were able to build on that lead and go up by 8. But that's where the Sixers went on the run of their own. And they took a 5-point lead with just 47 seconds left. And this is where controversy was about to strike in this game. So Sixers up 101-96 off a Lowry missed field goal. Knicks run the ball down court and pull to within 2 with a Jalen Brunson 3-pointer. So nothing crazy yet. Well, the shot was really big, but like nothing like crazy call wise.
Kind of lucky
But
too.
here
It had like a lucky bounce to get in there, and Brunson was very inefficient that game too. So it was kind of surprising it went in.
I remember. Yeah, really surprising. But this is where the controversy comes in. With the score at 101-99, Sixers are trying to get the ball up the court, and this is when like you think that the refs are ready to call the foul because it was pretty much a must foul situation for the Knicks. I mean, obviously they're gonna try to get the steal first. A lot of times teams don't get it successfully, so then they have to foul. Well, the refs kind of just let them play on. And so then Josh Hart gets the steal or no call foul, shall we say. So that it ends up being a steal. And then that's when the Knicks get the ball back. Dante DiVincenzo fires a 3, misses it. But then Isaiah Hartenstein grabs a very huge rebound and then he kicks it back out to DiVincenzo again. And this time he drills it. So now the Knicks take the lead 102-101 with 13 seconds left. Sixers call timeout. Coming out of the timeout, Tyrese Maxey misses a running finger roll layup. So now Sixers must foul. So
I believe he didn't miss it. I think Hartenstein was able to block it. Yeah.
Oh, did he block it?
Yeah, like he barely
not
blocked.
Gonna lie. I'm not
It
gonna
was
lie. I
hard to
forgot
see.
what happened. Yeah, I kind of forgot what happened. So then I look back at the play-by-play, and it said like missed a layup, a 1 foot layup. So like I didn't know what
Or
exactly happened, but yeah,
maybe I was wrong, but he definitely contested that one heavy.
I would just say like if he missed a like 1 foot layup, it's gotta have been like good defense. I'm sure
Yeah,
he wouldn't
yeah.
miss it like wide open. Yeah, but nonetheless, off that miss or block shot, Philly obviously had the foul, and so it was OG that was sent to the line for the Knicks. He ends up making a pair of free throws, so then the Knicks extend their lead to three, and so now Sixers need a three to tie the game. They try to tie it, but Joel Embiid misses the 3 point attempt, and the Knicks were able to hang on and win the game 104 to 101.
That was very
So obviously,
heartbreaking.
yeah, very heartbreaking. A lot of controversy. A lot believe that the refs robbed the Sixers of the game and it should have been 1-1. And probably true, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Sixers kind of have been getting screwed by the refs a lot. Like remember, did you see what happened against the Clippers like a month ago when Kelly Oubre got slapped so hard and the ref didn't call it? And
Is
but
that
then it's
when
like they
Oubre
called the
called
foul.
all the refs a bitch?
Yeah,
It was like, you're
yeah,
a
called
bitch,
all the refs
you're a
a bitch.
bitch, you're a
Yeah,
bitch.
your grandpa's a bitch, your dad's a bitch, your mom's a bitch, your whole family's a bitch. Yeah, that was hilarious. But yeah, it seems like officials have been doing Philly quite dirty this season, and yeah, this is a really costly loss, for sure.
Yeah, at that time, I definitely
This
kind
was
of
a
felt bad for Embiid because, especially with the
yeah,
first game, how, like, if you remember that play where he did that self alley oop and it looked pretty cool, but then he messed up his knee. He was on the floor. His
yeah.
eye was like
I saw that.
messed up because apparently he has Bell's palsy. I believe that's what it's called. Um,
Oh
he
yeah,
had to leave the game and then return, just to lose. So I
I
felt
know.
bad for Embiid until game three, which, like, I'll let you do the rundown, but I'll definitely talk about why I don't feel bad for Embiid at all.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, like, when Embiid went down, I thought he was gonna be out again.
That's what,
But
like, everybody
he
thought,
ended up yeah, he ended up shockingly going back in the game
and it was
and still
decent.
managed to do pretty yeah, still managed to play decent. We thought that it was like typical injury prone Joel that was gonna just not be available for the rest of the series. That would have been obviously very bad for Philly. But yeah, game two was a very disappointing loss for the Sixers. Um, Unfortunately, that was the same night as the Lakers game two loss, so two very excruciating, embarrassing fashion losses in one night on Tuesday night, I believe that was. Yeah, that was not very fun. Or maybe it was Monday, one of those two. Um, but yeah, game three. So the first half was pretty good again, like the other games, and the in the third quarter, so pretty much first half was pretty close. I believe the Knicks were up for a little bit, and then the third quarter was when Sixers came out firing, and they outscored the Knicks 43 to 27. Going up by as much as 15, the Sixers never squandered the lead. The Knicks pulled to was in seven. Late was like a minute or under a minute remaining, but the Sixers were able to hold on. And doing so, they were able to get a much needed win to pull to was in 2-1 in the series. And in the process, some key scoring from the Sixers. Um, Joel Embiid putting up his playoff career high 50 points. Tyrese Maxey putting up 25 points. Kelly Oubre putting up 15 points, coming off yet another car accident. Like, obviously, we know he had one early in the season, but again, like, come on, man, what is he doing? That was really head scratching. I mean, glad he's okay, but I don't know what he's doing. Anyhow, Campaign also added 11 points. So good all around effort for a Sixers in a must win game. And then in the loss, Jalen Brunson did his job putting up 39. Josh Hart put up 20. OG Anunoby put up 17. And Isaiah Hartenstein put up 14 points. And so that sets us up for a very crucial game four for both teams. Knicks will try to win that game to go up 3-1, while the Sixers will try to win and even up the series 2-2. So, very, very critical and important game for both teams. And we will see what happens. But, Memo, I think it's your turn to pretty much give any initial thoughts, and you can also mention the exact reasons about Joel Embiid or whatnot you mentioned that you didn't feel bad for.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for him. I hope the Sixers end up losing this series, even
Honestly,
though,
I'm also rooting for the Knicks, to be
yeah.
honest.
Well, last week I said that I was gonna predict that Philly was gonna win because I had a feeling that Embiid would somehow play like MVP Embiid, and he did in Game 3. He ended up having 50 points, which is great. What wasn't great though it was his behavior on the court. He was throwing his body
Yeah,
around, throwing tantrums, getting pissed off, just flailing around, and then, but the most crucial thing that he did, the most egregious, was when he had a flagrant one foul because he was on the floor and Mitchell Robinson was around. I believe he was grabbing a rebound, and Embiid went and just tried to tug. Not try. He actually like grabbed Mitchell Robinson's legs to get him down to the floor, which is highly very dangerous, very stupid. There is no
yeah,
reason why Embiid should do that. Apparently, his excuse was something similar happened where Kaminga, like he messed up his leg because Kaminga landed on him, something like that. So he had like a flashback or whatever. There's no excuse for this. That is egregious. You shouldn't be doing that on a basketball court. You should have been ejected, and the Sixers should have lost this game. But he got very, very lucky that he was not kicked out because Mitchell ended up being fine. Like he was okay after that play, so that's why the
yeah,
refs were like very lenient on Embiid. But that's a very dangerous move, and it should have happened. Uh, it made me lose some respect for Embiid, which I didn't have a lot of respect for him, but I was kind of rooting for him, and now it's gone. It's gone. Fucking be like that was an awful move. Um,
yeah, definitely. And like, yeah, I'm definitely glad Mitchell Robinson is okay. So I actually didn't watch this game. I missed it. I don't remember why I didn't watch it. Either because like when I was at the gym, there was something else on TV, or I was like paying attention to other stuff, so I didn't watch that game. Or I can't remember if this game was like NBA TV or TNT, one of them. But point blank is I didn't really know too much about Joel Embiid doing those like crazy ass behavior stuff. But quite honestly, it doesn't really shock me too much because he has always pretty been like a pretty immature dude, honestly, like whether it's on the internet or like on court antics. I mean, that's how he got his nickname, right? Troel Embiid, because he always trolls on the internet and whatnot. Um, but yeah, definitely inexcusable behavior right there. And before the series, I I definitely wanted the Knicks to win for sure. Now it's like even more undebatable. Like Joel Embiid is still a really good basketball player, but the way he's acting completely unacceptable. Um, so we'll see what happens. I think the Knicks. I think that it's kind of like one of those 50-50 series where like both teams play really good and it could go either way potentially. But I feel like the Knicks should still be the better team, to be honest. Um, I feel like the Sixers have like the better superstar players. I mean, technically Embiid's the only superstar, and then Maxey is a star, not really like a superstar. But I do believe that the Knicks have like a better supporting cast overall. So then they should be the better team. But it'll probably be close. Originally I picked the Knicks to win in six. I think that's still very possible. Maybe it goes seven, or maybe it ends in five. Um, that would be cool, honestly. If they can win game four and then they can wrap up game five at home. But yeah, we'll see. Definitely should be interesting, and knowing that this is a long time rivalry between division rivals, New York versus Philadelphia, city rivals, definitely gonna be fun to see how the rest pans out.
Yeah, last note I wanted to say is a bit more positive. The Knicks have been pretty awesome, especially since Brunson in the first two games wasn't really that efficient on the court. He was chucking up shots, a lot of breaks in there. But thanks to his teammates like Josh Hart has been awesome. Definitely a former Laker
Yeah,
I miss. He is such a
yeah,
great
I miss Josh
rebounder
Hart.
uh, for his height, and he's also like draining threes like crazy. He's been like draining four threes a game, which isn't really his game. He's not known for his shooting, but he's doing great there. Dante DiVincenzo was great in game two, obviously with the game winning three to help them out. Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson have been great, slowing down Embiid. In game one, the big man and Josh Hart for the Knicks out rebounded the Sixers by 20 rebounds, so that's crazy. OG has been awesome. So, and game three, Brunson had a great game. Um, I forgot how much he scored, like 39, 36, something like that. Um, so, yeah, the overall team for the Knicks is great. Um, Even last week when I was doing my prediction, I was very hesitant. If you remember, I was
Yeah,
like going back and forth, and almost changed my mind. But now, after
yeah,
seeing what's been
I
going on, I
understand. I
changed my
mean,
mind. I think the Knicks will win.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely understand the like back and forth hesitancy though, because like Sixers are also like not really kind of like the Heat aren't the typical 8 seed. Sixers are not like the typical 7 seed either, because obviously we know the reason they slipped that much was because of Joel Embiid missing a good chunk of the season. Um, that being said, the Knicks definitely should still be the better team. So, I'm sure they definitely got a much tougher matchup than they would have liked, but I think they can win anyway. But I believe that would be a good point to where we can shift to our next series, and that is the 3 versus 6 matchup between the Bucks and the Pacers. So starting with game one, that was a very dominant win by the Bucks. Pacers led the game by two in a few occasions early, but that was it. From there, it was all Milwaukee. Uh, Bucks put up a dominant second quarter, and they outscored the Pacers 39-21, even going up as much as 30 at one point. And I believe Giannis did play a little bit that game, but because the Bucks ended up playing so well and building such a big lead, he was able to rest in second half. So that was definitely really cool, especially knowing that he was injured. So like much needed there. Uh Pacers outscored the Bucks 29-14 in the third quarter, and they were able to pull to within 12. But ultimately, Bucks hang on and win by 15 in a strong game one win. Now moving on to game two. This was a strong bounce back win for the Pacers. Uh, so Bucks had to play this game without Giannis. Early in the game, the Bucks actually started the game good. They were up eight, and you thought maybe they were on their way to another dominant win, go up 2-0. wasn't the case. Pacers were able to control the game after the early Milwaukee lead. At the half, it was just a 5-point lead for the Pacers, but in the second half, they were really able to dominate. They went up by as much as 23, ultimately winning by 17 at the end. A huge game from Pascal Siakam, putting up 37 points. Miles Turner, he added 22 points. Andrew Nembhard was 20. Tyrese Haliburton had a very quiet 12 points in this game, but clearly didn't need to do so much, so good for him. In the loss for Milwaukee, Dame put up 34, so doing his job in Giannis's absence as number one guy, kind of like the Portland days. Brook Lopez put up 22, Middleton was 15, and Bobby Portis was 14. So that was a very huge win for the Pacers and a tough loss for the Bucks at home. But moving on to Game 3, which was last night. For us, it was a afternoon game on the West Coast. For some reason,
I
that
didn't
game
know
was at 2:30.
it was so early. I forgot about it, and that was probably like the best game of the playoffs so far. So I'm bummed out that I missed it.
Ironically, yeah, and it's so I hear that the reason why they did that is because they were trying to do a triple header on ESPN instead of doing like an NBA TV game per usual. But like the time is just not good because like a lot of people are still at work. Like I was at work, so I couldn't watch that game. I had to miss it. It definitely sucked. Like I kind of tracked it a little bit. But in summary, Giannis was out again. Pacers came out firing. They jumped to a 39-22 lead in the first quarter. Then the Bucks were able to go on a big run in the second to pull a little bit closer. Ultimately, Milwaukee clawed their way back and they took a brief 3-point lead in the fourth quarter, trading baskets down the end. So at the very end, Indiana was up by 3, and the Bucks needed a 3 to match them and force overtime. Chris Middleton absolutely drilled a clutch deep 30-foot 3-pointer to force overtime.
Highly contested. It was a crazy shot.
I saw, yeah, like that was like vintage Chris Middleton because a lot of people have been giving him shit, saying like he hasn't looked the same after his injuries, he looks washed, whatnot. But that like was a pretty good performance,
and he had an amazing game overall this game. 42 points, really carrying the load, especially in the fourth and overtime. He had a lot of clutch moments. Yeah. As you said, hit the game tying 3.
Yeah, I will say a little bit of 2021 Chris Middleton flashbacks, like when he was kind of the 1A, 1B with Giannis in the finals against the Suns. So that's really cool to see Chris turning back the clock, even though he's not particularly old, but like, yeah, going back to form, shall we say. But then in overtime, the teams traded baskets a lot throughout the way. With 15 seconds left, Nesmith makes a 3, and then in response, Chris Middleton hits another 3 of his own to tie the game. Then came the final possession for the Pacers. Tyrese drives towards the basket, and he goes up for a floater. Gets fouled by Middleton, and makes a shot and one. Knocks down the free throw. Pacers go up 3. So this sets up the Bucks in another situation where they need a 3 to try to force double overtime. Chris Middleton goes for the 3 again. Unfortunately, this time it didn't go in. So the Pacers were able to hang on and prevail for the victory in overtime. And they go up 2-1 in the series.
That was a crazy play by Haliburton.
Yeah, I saw, like, that was a crazy play. Like,
the way
floater,
and not even just the floater, but the way he transitioned and then crosses up Beverly, making him look like a cone out there, and then hitting that floater. That was tough, especially since like the first two games he wasn't doing the best. He wasn't that aggressive. Um,
Yeah,
he wasn't scoring much in the first two. Halliburton only had 9 points in game one, 12 points in game two, which isn't what you want to see from your star player. But he definitely came through in game three.
definitely. So that was a really big win for the Pacers, able to defend their home court in their first game at home, go up 2-1. So right now we're a little bit unclear about Giannis's injury situation. Don't know if he'll be back for game 4. I'm sure they definitely would like to have him back. I mean, now that they're down the series, game 4 is kind of a big deal now. I mean, you don't want to go down 3-1. Like, obviously, there have been 3-1 comebacks, and granted, if they were to go down 3-1, they would have 2 home games and just 1 road game, so it would be possible to come back. But to avoid that situation would definitely be the best thing. And so, this is pretty much a must-win game for the Bucks in Game 4. As for the Pacers, if they're able to go up 3-1, they would be looking to be in great shape, honestly. Obviously, they would have to handle the job to win one more after that. But so far, it seems like the series has been like pretty shifty. So pretty much, game one was a blowout. Game two was a blowout. Game three looked like it was going to be a blowout, but then it got close later after the Bucks came back. Um, we'll see what happens, but I do believe so far this has been a pretty entertaining series, despite like a lot of blowouts being involved. And I know that these teams don't like each other, like a lot of back and forth talking. I remember like Bobby Portis called the Pacers front runners. Like they only talk when they're doing good, but when they're losing, they are just quiet. I mean, I feel like a lot of teams are like that, honestly. And you can't really blame them because like you really don't have room to talk when you're losing. When you're winning, like you can talk. I mean, some teams do talk more than they should, and that is annoying, but um yeah, definitely I think the trash talk makes this pretty fun also. But we'll see what happens. Honestly, I do like both teams. I like the Bucks a little bit more just because like Giannis, one of the top players, and whatnot. Kind of hard to trust that team with Doc Rivers as head coach, but I hope the best for them. We'll see what happens. May the best team win, shall we say? But Memo, any initial thoughts on this series?
Yeah, I guess I want to say how weird Damian Lillard has been because game one he scored 35 points all in the first half and then 0 points in the second half. That's pretty weird, but obviously they ended up winning, so it doesn't matter. He still got his 35. He still did great. Uh, and then game two, he scored 22 points in the first half, ended up with 34 points in total. But they ended up losing that game. In the first two games, Siakam was awesome. He really was. I believe he had like 36 points in the first game and then 37 in the second game. Cooled down in game three. But luckily, as we mentioned, Halliburton picked up the pace a bit. Uh, Miles Turner had 29 points that game. There was more contributions, so Siakam didn't have to go too crazy. But yeah, I'm happy to see him doing pretty well on the Pacers. He's definitely a star that's kind of forgettable at times, but
Yeah,
he shows that he uh, can definitely rise in the playoffs. He does have a ring under his belt, so let's not forget how great he can be. But honestly, like
definitely.
you covered like almost everything. Like you went over it in really, really great detail. So we could honestly move on to the final matchup. Probably the most boring out of any series, Cavs versus
By far.
Magic. Um,
Yeah,
and these two teams are very like defense heavy teams. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the reason why they're so boring and for the most part very low scoring.
Yeah, it has been low scoring.
You're even yawning right now just talking about them.
I'm yawning because of how boring the matchup has been. And like every game has been a blowout too. Like either way it went. Game one looked closer, like with the Cavs only winning by 10, but like I think it was a lot of garbage time points. I didn't watch that game. Honestly, I haven't watched any of these games from this series. I just haven't been interested in the matchup. Also, there is like a reason why 2 out of the 3 games so far have been on NBA TV instead of like TNT or ESPN. It's because NBA even knows that this is the worst series. Come on now. And like honestly, I do think like I was gonna say like the Magic look like they probably are like the worst team in the playoffs. But then came game 3, a dominant win.
Crazy
So maybe that
impressive
also
game.
yeah, so maybe that also says that the Cavs are not that good, honestly. And honestly, I will say this one thing I don't like about this series is that whoever that advances this series, assuming that Boston also advances, that means they get to play one of these garbage teams next. So like their first round matchup against the Heat is gonna be harder than their easy ass second round matchup. So if they somehow lost against the Heat, that would be really good. But if they beat the Heat, that means they're probably like for sure gonna go to at least the conference finals. So that'd be annoying. But anyhow, staying on topic on this series, um, game one, the Cavs started the game firing. They went up double digits early, and the Magic made a slight run to cut it to single digits. But ultimately, the Cavs rebuilt their lead in the second quarter and then went up double digits again at half. The Cavs were able to go up by as much as 20 in the fourth, and then they hold on to win by 14. So obviously 14 it was actually 14 not 10 as I said earlier, my bad. But even like a 14-point game isn't necessarily close. Like it's not a crazy blowout, but definitely not close. Like clearly we know which team is better when it's that score.
Yeah, and
But now
Donovan
game 2,
Mitchell ended up having a good game. Kerry Harris
yeah.
and Cole Anthony were garbage that game, and yeah,
Yeah.
it was. It's a blowout, but still, it was a very low scoring game. It didn't feel like a blowout. It felt like suffering.
Yeah, I mean like both teams were under 100. Come on now. Like I feel like that's not. I mean, I feel like recently there's been a lot more low scoring games for some reason. Because, like, usually teams be
Playoff
scoring
defense.
easily
That's
over
why.
100. Yeah, that is why. But game 2 was not much different. Another dominant Cavs win. Cavs led the game from start to finish, going up by as much as 22. Pretty good balanced scoring for Cleveland as Donovan Mitchell put up 23, Evan Mobley was 17, Jarrett Allen was 16, Darius Garland was 15, and Isaac Okoro was 10 points. And then for the Magic, they had a few guys also put up some numbers. Paulo was 21, Franz is 18, Gary Harris is 14, and Maurice Wagner was 12. But unfortunately, that wasn't enough. The Magic still got beat pretty handily. So 2 easy wins for the Cavs in Cleveland. And then came game 3. And that really proved like shifting locations did wonders, especially for the Magic. So early on, the Cavs jumped out to a early 7-point lead, making you think maybe it's just gonna be not much different despite the location change. Like Cavs start out the game good. Potentially they're gonna blow them out again, maybe sweep the series. Well, that wasn't the case. Magic ended up dominating the rest of the way. Matter of fact, the Magic actually won every single quarter, which is impressive because like if you win every quarter, you automatically win the game. Um, but all of the quarters, despite Orlando outscoring Cleveland, they were relatively close. Like each quarter, like let's say for example, Magic only outscored by like 5, 7, 8, like 10 points. It was the third quarter that was really when they blew the game open. Third quarter, the Magic outscored the Cavs 35-16. And then at one point in the fourth quarter, the Magic went up by as much as 43 points. Ultimately, they won by 38, was the final score of 121-83. This was obviously a much needed win for the Magic to regain confidence. Horrible game for the Cavs. Embarrassing to lose by that much in the playoffs. I believe I saw something saying like this is their biggest playoff loss since 2008. I don't remember what they lost by that game,
Something
but
like that.
yeah, but definitely not a good point spread. So game four is going to be very crucial for both teams. The Magic is able to tie 2-2, then brand new series, it would go from a best of 7 to a best of 3 remaining. And if the Cavs can bounce back and go up 3-1, then they will have a chance to end this series at home next game in game 5. So definitely a very crucial game for both teams. As mentioned earlier, this series has been an absolute snooze fest. I didn't even care to watch a single game so far, quite honestly. So yeah, I think that the earlier the series ends, the better, quite honestly. But Memo, what are your thoughts on this series?
Boring snooze fest.
I agree.
Yeah, you covered most of it. I'll just say that Garland needs to step it up. You're a former All Star. You should be having a 5 point game in the playoffs. Game
Yeah.
three, like the Cavs were definitely embarrassed. Mitchell only had 13 points, and they have great defenders like Suggs. So, I, I guess, uh, it makes sense why they would have low scoring games like this. But you can't have a poor scoring game and then allow Suggs to score 24. That's not his game, but that's what he did in game three, which led to a blowout. So I'm still confident in the Cavs' ability to win this series. Um, and yeah, the Magic hasn't looked super impressive. Obviously, game three, they blew out the Cavs in a major fashion. And Paulo was great, but yeah, I don't believe in the Magic at all. As much as I love their theme song, Orlando Magic, uh, we're not gonna be hearing that a lot more.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to be hearing that a lot. I'm afraid maybe game three, the only time we're going to hear that, and the last time this season. But we'll see.
We'll see, but yeah, I'll take the Cavs, I guess, and we could honestly move on because we've been yapping a lot. We've been recording for a while, and we still gotta go through our preseason seeding predictions that we made uh, late last year, I guess. Not super late, like October or whatever, before the season started.
Yeah.
And this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna start with the Western Conference, and we're gonna go just little by little, just go over our predictions, and then we'll reveal what actually happened. So we won't take too long, especially since we've already been talking a lot. So I guess looking at the Western Conference, let me just make sure I've got my list. Okay, we're gonna start with the bottom five. So for me, in the West, bottom five at 15, I had the Rockets, 14 Trailblazers, 13 Spurs, 12 Mavericks, which is crazy knowing how well they ended up doing, and then 11 Jazz. Who were in your bottom five?
Yeah. So in my bottom five, I had some similar teams to you and some different. So number 15, I had the Trailblazers. Number 14, I had the Rockets. Number 13, I had the Spurs. Number 12, I had the Jazz. And number 11, which probably was the biggest head scratcher one, was I had the Pels at 11.
That's crazy. And then to actually see what actually happened, at number 15 in the West was the Trailblazers, 14 Spurs, 13
Okay, I nailed that
Grizzlies,
one.
which we didn't have at all. 12 was Jazz, and then
We
11 was Rockets. So, Rockets did better than I expected. I expected them to be the worst in the
definitely.
West, but they almost made the play-in. They almost knocked out the Warriors in the play-in, so shout out to them.
Yeah, I think that definitely the most shocking is the Rockets overachieving. And no one expected the Grizzlies to be this bad because no one expected John Morant to get injured and out for the season after returning from suspension. So like
Not
he already missed a lot of games due to suspension. And then he came back a few games and he did really good and helped the Grizzlies win like five straight or whatever it was. And he got hurt again. That was really unfortunate.
Plus the
But yeah, were
other
you gonna
injuries
say
that
something?
they had throughout the season, like it wasn't
Oh,
just Ja, it was like the whole team at one
they had
point.
yeah, they had a lot of injuries from key guys. Like Desmond Bain got hurt, Marcus Smart got hurt. I believe Jaren Jackson also got hurt for a little bit. And then I'm sure there were other guys. But like, do you remember like towards the end of the season, their roster, there were a lot of people I don't know who was on the team, like playing G League guys. Like for example, in the Lakers' second to last regular season game was against the Grizzlies, and we almost lost against them against a damn G League roster. Yeah, that was embarrassing. But to give you a little bit of idea of how like banged up with injuries the Grizzlies are, um, they had Scottie Pippen Jr. in the starting lineup. And must I
That's a
remind you,
nasty move.
last year he was on the Lakers on a two-way contract, like mostly playing in the G League. And now he's starting. So that was really shocking and quite funny. Granted, he was able to play relatively decent, I say, so good for him. Happy to hear it, but shocking nonetheless. Definitely the Grizzlies poor season had a lot to do with injuries. Really everything to do with injuries. So probably Memphis will be back in playoff contention next year, assuming that they are healthy.
Yeah, most likely. And so looking at the
Mm-hmm.
predictions, I got none correct, but I believe you got the Blazers correct at the very bottom.
Blazers, yeah.
And did you get the
Yeah.
Jazz correct? Yeah, you got the Jazz correct as well in 12th, right?
Ah, okay. But those, yeah, I did.
So at
So
least you
those
got
two, I
two.
got the yeah. So those two, I got the seeding right, and then I pretty much included four out of the five teams. The only one I didn't include was the Grizzlies,
Same here.
and somehow included the Pels instead. Yeah, um, that was okay, I guess. Uh, I think for you, obviously, the biggest head scratcher was the Mavericks at 12.
I don't
Do
know
you
what I
remember
was
what was
thinking. I don't
yeah? I
remember
was
at
gonna say, do
all.
you remember what was the reason why you had no faith in them? I do remember in the predictions video you said something about like you didn't have faith in them. I don't remember what was the reason though. I don't know if it was like chemistry issues or depth or whatnot. I have no idea.
Yeah, maybe because of how
Maybe
they
you just
ended their season last year and
yeah,
maybe acquiring Grant Williams as your big free agent signing.
yeah,
Maybe that's why I put them so low,
yeah,
but that's egregious. Oh my
maybe.
god.
Yeah. I will say getting rid of Grant Williams was probably one of the best things they did. Especially because they were able to get PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford instead. Like so much better,
So
honestly.
much better.
Yeah, and what's ironically funny is that the Hornets got better after they got Grant Williams. So I guess it's a win for everyone at the end of the day. But I believe that would be a good point for us to move on up in our standing predictions.
Yeah, now let's do the
Um,
playing teams. So for me, at 10 was the Grizzlies, which we know were lower this season. 9 were the Pelicans. 8, the Timberwolves. And then 7, the Clippers. Who were in your playing spots?
yeah. So number 10, I had the Timberwolves. So none of us expected the Timberwolves to do crazy good like they did.
Not
We all
at
thought they
all.
were going to be playing again. Shout out to them for overachieving though. Um I had the Grizzlies at 9, so obviously they were low, even lower than that. Honestly speaking, like having the Grizzlies at 9 was kind of a little bit crazy bold to start, knowing like they were coming off a 2 seed last year, but because of injury, they were even lower. Anyhow, so far it was Timberwolves 10, Grizzlies 9. I had the Mavs at 8, which is also quite low. So I did have them like at least in the play-in running, so at least it wasn't as low as you ranked them. Um, but here's a team that I ranked too high: the Warriors. I put them at 7. I assumed that this team was gonna be better, and I'm glad they weren't. But like, yeah, I feel like most people thought that the Warriors were at least gonna be a playoff team, at least a play-in team, which they were. But I don't think people thought that they were going to be 10th, which is the very bottom seed of the play-in. But we're definitely really happy that they ended up being where they are, and hopefully this is the end of the dynasty. And they're probably talking hella shit right now about the Lakers getting about to be swept, but you guys didn't even make the playoffs. You have no room to talk. But yeah, those are my play-in standings. Timberwolves 10, Grizzlies 9, Mavs 8, Warriors 7.
Yeah, and you ended up getting none of them wrong because at number 10 was the Warriors, number 9 Kings, number 8 Pelicans, and number 7 the Lakers, which I
Yeah,
believe
rough
I got
sledding.
none of them right either. I was close with the
Yeah, that
Pelicans.
was tough.
Pelicans I
Yeah,
put ninth when they ended up in 8th. But other than that, I got the rest wrong.
yeah. It was definitely quite tricky, I will say, because like we figured that the Western Conference was gonna be good. Maybe we didn't expect it to be as good as it was, but there were definitely a few teams that were like considered the odd man out. So it was very tricky there. But yeah, as mentioned, neither of us got any of those playing seeds right. You were pretty close to the Pelicans, but aside from that, um, rough sledding there.
Yeah, but okay, we can move on to the playoff locks. So the top 6, and I'll go at number 6. I had the Warriors, number 5 the Thunder, number 4 the Kings, number 3 the Suns, number 2 the Lakers. Oh my god, and then number 1 the Nuggets. So yeah, it was not a really good prediction, but what did you have?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say yeah, the top 6 I didn't do very good either. And a lot of my predictions were the same as your predictions. So to start, I had the Thunder at 6, I had the Clippers at 5, Kings at 4, Suns at 3, Lakers at 2, and the Nuggets at 1. So yeah, we will go over the actual standings now.
So at
Would you like to do it since you?
yeah, I
Yeah,
got it. I got it. So number 6, the Suns. Number 5, the Mavericks. Number 4, Clippers. Number 3, Timberwolves. Number 2, Nuggets, and number 1, Thunder. Obviously, we didn't expect the Thunder and the Timberwolves to be this good, so they ended up being a lot higher. So did the Mavs. Like I didn't even put them in play-in contention, but they ended up being the 5th seed. Um, let's see. And yeah, I guess we were pretty wrong.
we
We thought the Suns and Lakers were gonna do better than they were. The Kings as well.
Yeah, we also yeah, I was gonna say like the Kings, man, they massively flopped this season. We thought they were gonna be like relatively good like last year again, and it wasn't the case. Uh and then obviously like your list, Warriors at number 6. I mean, I had them at number 7. We both overrated the hell out of that team. um And then yeah, Suns ranked too high, Lakers ranked too high. Clippers shockingly we ranked too low, but for me it was actually close. They were 4th and I ranked them 5th. But yeah, that was some rough sledding. I believe neither of us got any of the top 6 right. I believe the closest one could have been Denver, but they ended up finishing second instead of first,
Yeah,
and
we were
in
close,
turn
but
made
still wrong.
yeah made our made our seeding wrong there. But yeah, this year's Western Conference was quite hard to predict just because of how stacked the conferences were, and clearly because of how many good teams there was going to be like one or two odd men out, and obviously Grizzlies with mostly the injuries, and then some other teams like the Warriors was because they had too many ups and downs and they didn't do enough at the end. But yeah, it was interesting. We, we had a few. I think I had like 2 or 3 correct predictions. And did you have any like correct seedings, or you only had close ones but not
Only
100% correct
close
ones?
was I got them all wrong
Close ones.
though. I got them all wrong.
Uh, well, it's tough, so no shame, shall we say?
Yeah,
Um,
but I
but
think I
yeah,
did better in the East. If you're ready to talk about that.
yeah. I think that most of us did better in the East, and so we can get going for Eastern Conference.
Cool.
Um,
So for
starting
for
with the
me,
15 to 11.
yeah, we're gonna do 15 through 11, and for me, I got the Pistons at 15, Wizards at 14, Hornets at 13, Raptors at 12, and Nets at 11.
For me, I got the almost the same as you, but one slight difference. So I had the Pistons at 15, Wizards at 14, Hornets at 13, Raptors at 12, and I had the Magic at 11. So,
Which that's kind of crazy. Hindsight,
yeah.
obviously, but yeah, what ended up actually happening was what I predicted. I went 5 for 5. Pistons at 15, Wizards at 14, Hornets at 13, Raptors at 12, and Nets at 11. So I fumbled with the Western Conference, but the Eastern Conference I did a lot better, obviously. And so did you. You got 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I will say, just proves how bad these teams are, not gonna lie. Like, they were not even able to prove us wrong. Western Conference, there were some of those we thought were gonna be bad that proved us wrong and did better than anticipated. Or there were teams we expected to be good that did worse than anticipated. But here, it's like not a lot of shocks, aside from like me thinking that the Magic was gonna be worse than they were. Um, so far, pretty good. Um, So then I think we can predict our play-in teams for Eastern Conference now.
Yeah, so for me, in the play-in at number 10 was the Magic, so I was definitely wrong there. Bulls at 9, Pacers at 8, and Heat at 7. What about you?
So at number 10, I had the Nets. Number 9, I had the Pacers. Number 8, I had the Bulls. And number 7, I had the Heat.
All right, and then I ended up getting one right. So for 10 was the Hawks, 9 was the Bulls, which I predicted correctly. 8 was the Heat, which I was close. I said 7, but they ended up in 8th. And then at number 7 is 76ers, which obviously they dropped a lot this year due to Joel's injury. So
Yeah.
that was hard to predict. So there's no really shame on getting that one wrong, I feel like.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to say about this, about your predictions, or should we just move on to the next group?
Um, I think not a whole lot to say. There were some teams in this group that I got right, but not the exact order. Like for example, I I knew that the Heat and the Bulls were gonna be in the play-in, but just the seeding were a bit different. But I believe we are good to now reveal the top six, aka non-play-in playoff team predictions that we had. 6-1.
Yeah, and I'll let me just say that I am embarrassed about what I'm about to say. But for the sixth seed, I thought it was gonna be the Hawks, fifth seed Knicks, fourth seed Sixers, third seed Cavs, second seed Celtics, and then first seed Bucks. I really thought that Damian Lillard and Giannis were gonna mesh well together and do amazing,
Yeah.
but that was definitely not the case.
Uh, so for me, sixth seed I had the Knicks, fifth seed I had the Hawks, fourth seed I had the Sixers, third seed I had the Cavs, second seed Celtics, first seed Bucks. So yeah,
Did you
there
mention the
were
Knicks
a
at all?
few,
Where was the Knicks for you?
uh Knicks I had them at 6. Um,
Oh, okay.
so yeah, so yeah, obviously I think the major disappointment was the Hawks this season.
Yeah, I don't know
We
why we
thought they were
thought
gonna
so
push.
highly about them. But
Yeah, it's because they had the talent. I don't know why, honestly, but yeah,
they
I think
ended up
maybe a
being
lot of it.
mid.
Yeah, I think a lot of it also has to do with not really expecting from much from the teams below that we predicted. A lot of underachievers there, I think. But yeah, I remember the Hawks here. Knicks ended up obviously doing better than we expected. Sixers slipped due to injury. The Cavs were pretty close to where we predicted. Major flop was the Bucks, not doing as good as we expected. I remember we were both like on the edge, hesitating between Celtics and Bucks, who's one, who's two. Ultimately, we both picked Bucks because we believed that like Dame was really gonna take the Bucks up the top, and also I'm sure another reason was because like fuck the Celtics, we preferred them not to be one, so we didn't want to predict them to be one. But unfortunately, it happened. Nonetheless, we both did a lot better for our Eastern Conference standings than our Western Conference standings. Mostly at the bottom because
Yeah.
we knew who was going to be really bad. But I think that overall, looking back at our standings, it's pretty fun and funny too. Like how we totally didn't see certain things coming, or certain things we totally did see coming. Um, but yeah, definitely fun to reflect back.
Yeah, and I think this just
We'll see if
shows
we.
how unpredictable the NBA season is. There's a lot that can happen, and because of that, you never know what to expect every season.
Yeah, exactly. That's why like you there's a lot of ungivens. A team that looks like they will be really good might not necessarily, they could very likely underachieve. Versus another team that you might think is just gonna be absolute garbage and not have a chance to do anything, and they may just shock everyone and do better than expected. So definitely that's the fun of watching the game, because a lot of teams will change year in and year out. Whether it's like chemistry issues, head coaching changes, big key additions in the offseason, trades, draft, you name it. Um, this was a fun episode, I will say. Doing the playoff predictions and then our season standing review versus the reality.
Yeah, it was fun. It was long too. This has been our longest episode in a while, but there was a lot of games we had
It
to
has been.
cover. You did a
Yeah.
good job going over like every game, which I felt like a quick summary would have been fine, but uh, you got the
Yeah.
details done, so that's cool. But yeah, overall, it was a fun recording for sure. We'll see what happens in the playoffs this coming week. Will the Lakers be swept? Will the Suns be swept? Are the Heat gonna conquer the Celtics? Who knows? We have a fun week of basketball ahead of us, and we'll make sure to write some notes, watch the games, and have a great rundown for you all next week. But yeah, is there anything you want to say before we head out for the night?
Um, just want to say appreciate the viewers for viewing our content, continuing to support us. We definitely try our best to keep you guys entertained. Obviously, knowing that we are big basketball fans, for the game, we like to watch the games. We like to follow the news. We like to do fun games like the TikTok games we've done in the past. So definitely, we have a lot of fun stuff to come. Make sure you guys stay tuned, and if you like it a lot, give us a like and subscribe, and feel free to share amongst friends also.
Yeah, that would be great. Follow our socials. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe to your YouTube. Do all that we've already talked about. But yeah, I think that's it. I think we're done here. So I hope you all are doing great, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.